It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening, Laurie T.
Hello again. My name is Laurie Temple, and I'm an alcoholic. So I don't have to tell you my sobriety date, because I already just... Thank you for the birthday wish. I've heard speakers that say, start with something like when I was born, and you just think, oh my God. So I won't start there, but what I will start with is that I grew up with parents who were in Scientology. And when I was 12 and a half or so, they joined what's called the Sea Org, which is a section of Scientology. If you were from Los Angeles, you probably have an idea of what that is. And they sold everything that we had, and we all moved. I had two younger brothers, and we all moved to Los Angeles. And within the first day, we were separated from each other. And I didn't see my mom or my stepdad for probably months. I don't know how many months. And that's where I started sort of figuring out how to be a grown-up. And one of the things that I learned there, we had jobs, everybody had a job, all children were treated like adults, and my job was being a nanny. And so I was a nanny for 12 one-and-a-half-year-olds, and I got paid $17.20 a week. And I would take my $17.20, they provided housing and food, of course, I didn't have to survive only on that. I'd take my $17.20 and I'd buy a few packs of cigarettes, because that's an essential, absolutely. And then we would all go to Denny's, and we would stay up all night. On our one day off during the week, we'd stay up all night and have hot fudge sundaes and drink coffee and whatever. I mean, we were like teenagers. And then I would go to the 7-Eleven and I would wait for some poor guy who probably was an alcoholic. I referred to him as the wino, and I would wait for him, give him money, and he would bring me wine, and we would drink it by the dumpster behind the 7-Eleven. And I drank things like Mad Dog 2020 and other really classy beverages. And the thing about Scientology, it's not, my experience, I'm suspecting, is not like celebrities like Tom Cruise or other John Travolta or something like that. My experience with Scientology was a lot about control, and people that were drawn to Scientology in general were searching, especially the Sea Org part of it, which was we served the people that took classes and stuff like that, and we lived there. That was our life. And so there was a lot of abuse, and there were people there that were also not healthy, and which is why my parents joined. I mean, they just sort of took care of us. And there, if you broke any rules, or if you did something that they thought was not okay, this is the best way to say it, they'd put you on something called an e-meter and figure out, which is basically like a lie detector test, and figure out if you were telling the truth. And I learned very quickly, because I was not a saint, that I figured out how to beat the test. I just sort of really relaxed, and I made friends with whoever the person was, and I figured out. And so there were just a couple times when one of them I was innocent, but they, that was probably busting me for all the other times that I wasn't. But they did things like put you in isolation, or they declare that you're a treason to the group and no one's allowed to speak to you. You have to wear a sign, or or some sort of color. And there was a lot of shame and a lot of isolation. And I think what I learned there probably the most, Scientology did not make me an alcoholic, and I left there at 16, not with anyone saying, have a good life. I left there in the middle of the night and found some guy who would put me up, and but what I learned there was how to make sure that I could really fly under the radar. I really knew how to be invisible. I learned how to figure out what you wanted and then make sure that I did it. And that way I did a pretty good job of not getting in trouble. And when I finally left there, I figured out, when I was there, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that went down that has no relevance really in a setting like this, but I really learned that I had only a couple assets. And one of them, I thought I was not very smart, but I realized that I sort of could get what I needed. And I did that once I got out of Scientology. I did that by trading. And probably most women in this room know what I'm talking about when I'm saying trading. I never went without a place to sleep. I never went without a meal. And I did that by using the only asset that I figured I had. I had an 8th grade education and I had a hard time finding jobs, so I would lie and make friends with the guy who was in charge, and so I did a lot of that. And when I finally came to Prescott, in 1981, and I was almost 19. And just like they tell you, moving to another city does not change anything. There were plenty of people here to manipulate and trade with and drink with, and that's exactly what I did. And I think, in general, like, I was never arrested. I don't really have a very exciting story as far as, all these crazy things that you hear people say. What I did was I drank a lot, and I traded a lot, and I felt like shit a lot. And the shame didn't go away, and I really got no other tools. Those were my tools. And when I finally, I made friends with this woman who, I went to therapy because I thought that therapy could fix me, and I got married, and that did not change anything, and the poor guy was not an alcoholic, so it was quite an adventure, especially for him. And then later, he turned himself into a woman, which was a really drastic move, from my opinion. But I made friends with this woman who was in AA, and I didn't know it. And she was in this therapy group, and then we took a class, and I saw her in my college class because I had to get a GED because I had an 8th grade education, and I wanted to make something of myself. And I wasn't really smart enough to be a professional hooker. I only was smart enough I never really made any money. I only just got meals and rent and a ride here and there and maybe a trip to Las Vegas. And so I was determined to make something of myself. And so I went and got my GED, and then I took a college class. My first husband was a professor at Yavapai College, and I took a class, and I took his class because in case I failed, which I was sure I was going to do, which I didn't. I got the highest grade in the class with no help from him, which helped me to realize that I wasn't just a complete idiot. And anyway, my friend was in AA, and she and I and another friend of hers, we hung out and did lots of stuff, and they were both sober, and I would hang out with them, and then I'd go home and drink. And we did that for about a year. We were really great friends. I'm sure they knew I drank, but I never drank around them. And And then I went on a trip, and it didn't go very well at all. I went with another friend who drank a lot, and I knew that they were in AA, and I knew that I had some kind of a problem. I didn't think I was an alcoholic, and that's a little drastic. I just wanted to stop drinking so much, and I wanted to maybe just stop, but I had no idea how to do it. And so I came back, and I went to a meeting. At the suggestion, I said something like, I might have a problem. I don't know what I said. I said something, and they directed me to the Catholic Church. I think it was on a Wednesday night or Saturday or something. This was a while ago. And I went to the meeting, and I did not suddenly discover that I was an alcoholic. I just sat in the back and listened, and then some guy was hitting me up out at my truck, and then I met Mark at a restaurant, and we had dinner, and he was thrilled that I went to a meeting. And basically what happened was about 3 months later, so I stopped drinking. And I went to a few meetings with my friends, and and about 3 months later, Mark talked me into going on a date with him. And then we were really good friends, and I said, I don't want to date you because that'll screw everything up. And I really like having you for my friend. I really like you. And he said, let's just try it. And I always had the attitude of, what the hell? People would say, take this pill. I'd say, what the hell? Let's go here. Okay. Get in the car. Okay. I never really had a sense of watch out or be careful, or, if it seemed like something that would be fun, then I did it. And so I went on a date with Mark. And shortly thereafter, really, we were best friends. And then being sober helped a lot, because then I was present and more aware of what was happening with him. And within 3 months, I was pregnant. And so we moved in together. It wasn't yours. We moved in together, and I thought, first I just thought, I don't want to raise a baby with a man. That was the first thing I decided. And then I just can do this on my own. I had done everything on my own. And but I didn't want to raise a child the way with no parents, or with only one parent, which is how I was raised. And so I thought, okay, so I moved in. I was scared. I didn't want to get married again. I just thought I failed the first time, and it's not going to go any better this time. Anyway, so we moved in together, and he didn't have a sponsor, and neither did I. And neither one of us was drinking. He had 8 years sober. And we started on our adventure. And the adventure is not like where you think, like I'm dressed all in white and I'm riding off on some horse with this fabulous guy. It was, Mark is a fabulous guy, don't get me wrong, but I was insane. And I was pregnant and not drinking and no sponsor and no tools, and moved in, and I just thought I just was insane. And he shortly thereafter went and got a sponsor. His sponsor had died, and he didn't have one for a little while, and he went and got another one, and he started getting better and would not engage with me in the same way. And I could see that, I could just see, like it just was completely different. And so I thought, well, I better get a sponsor, or I'm not going to be able to do this. So I went and found a sponsor, and she was amazing, because she didn't ever tell me you have to believe in this or that or the other thing. You don't have to. She didn't say it has to be done this way. And she started taking me through the book. And I was going to a women's meeting on Monday nights, and we get to step 2 where there's this whole thing about God. And I was not about God at all. Scientology is about teaching you that anything that happens to you, good or bad, is something that I caused. And so if I'm the cause of everything in my life, there's no room for God. And she didn't say you have to believe in God to be sober. She didn't say I'm not going to work with you or any of that. She just said go to the meeting and come back here every Tuesday night. And so, or whenever it was, I think it was a Tuesday. Anyway, so I would go to the meeting, and every time it was a ticket meeting, and I got a service commitment so that I wouldn't have to talk to anyone. I made the coffee so that I could stay busy before the meeting. I could just be in there, but I didn't really want to be connected. And every time my ticket got called, it seemed like it was about step 2. It was a 12 and 12. And I just pretend I didn't have a ticket. I just didn't say anything. And one day I said something to her about that, and she said, just tell them your name and tell them the truth. I said, they don't want to hear the truth from me. I don't think there is a God. And I definitely don't believe in it. She said, tell the truth. And she didn't say anything stupid like, the truth will set you free, because I wouldn't have been able to hear her. She just said, go in and tell what's real for you. And so the next time my ticket got called, of course it was on step 2, and I said, my name's Laurie and I'm an alcoholic and I don't believe in God. And I just waited, because I knew someone's going to come up and escort me out, or they're going to get me in the parking lot after. Something's going to happen. And nothing happened. And I got busy, cleaning up the coffee, and a lady came up to me and said, I so appreciate you telling your truth and having the courage to come in here and share that with us. And so, of course, the next Tuesday I went and told my sponsor, and she was, thrilled. They're always thrilled about shit. And I said, well, I still don't believe it. I'm not connected. I'm not, I don't feel like what's on the inside for me looks the same as what's on the outside for all of them. And she just told me to keep coming every week. And we worked through the steps, and we did the 4-step, and she said, it's going to change for you. You'll have an experience. And one of the things that she had me do to try to connect was, stop trying to figure out what God is. She said, if you can think of characteristics that make you feel safe, which I felt unsafe all the time. She said, that make you feel safe, make a list of those, and that's your God. And so that's what I did. Kindness and love, and someone who loves me no matter what the hell I do, and that's always there, and just things like that, which I don't know a single human that's like that. I know a lot of them that have a lot of that, but not all of it. And so one day, so in the meantime, I had a baby, and he's growing up, and we're staying married, and doing the best we can to keep from, being crazy. I won't speak for Mark, of course, but I'm crazy. And so I got the chance to stay home with him, which was a huge blessing. And we were home one day, and he's, I think, 2.5 or 3, and pissed off about something. His hands were clenched, and his face was red. And, I'm trying to be a good mom, because I didn't want to be a mom in the first place, because I'm only going to be able to pass on what I've been given. And I wasn't given anything, any tool that was worth passing on. And so I was petrified about being a mom. And so I have this little timeout chair, which he never sat in. And so I said, you need to sit in the timeout chair, and he's just like not having it. He's pissed, and I'm mad. And I'm standing there thinking about how I'm going to get him in the chair, and then he's, being defiant, whatever. And I knew that in that moment I was going to hit him. And it's exactly what I didn't want to do. And so I ran in the bathroom, and I shut the door. And I'm just sitting on the floor in the bathroom crying. And he's sitting on the floor in the hallway crying. And I asked for help. And I don't know what I asked. It doesn't matter, because in that moment, I was able to open the door, and I didn't hit him. And he turned 25 in July, and I have never hit him. And the only reason for that is because of this program. There have been lots of experiences that I've had where I've been able to be of service. I've had sponsees, I've done book studies and all this kind of stuff where I try to stay involved. And I've watched the miracle of this program work in other people's lives all the time. It's not as easy to see it in my own life because, I'm all stuck in my head and I think mostly about myself. And, the perspective is way off sometimes. When I went and told my sponsor about that experience, of course, then she's thrilled again. And I was just like, oh shit, that means now there's something. I've admitted there's something. And once I did that, things changed because I could start to see it and I could start to feel it. And for me, I don't, she never did stuff like make me get on my knees and say prayers, because I just told her I'm not doing that. And she, when I got to, I did the stuff that mattered. This is what she told me anyway. I did the stuff that mattered. I did my 4-step, which I conveniently left my mother off of there. She goes, "What about your mom?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm over that. That's no big deal." What about Scientology? I'm like, well, I just had this way. My whole life was compartmentalized. Well, Scientology is in the Scientology box, which doesn't get opened. So I'm cool. And what about the guy, that abused you? Oh, yeah. Well, and so she started really helping me to open those boxes without being dramatic or whatever. She just started getting me to open them. I don't know how she did it. She was amazing. Kind and loving is how she did it, because that wasn't something that I was used to when someone was trying to get something out of me. So I finished the steps. It took me 9 months to finish my 4-step, but it really only took me 2 weeks to do it. And procrastination is on the defects list every time. And in the meantime, we had a business. Mark was a contractor, and I helped him run the business. Then we had another baby. And when he was born, he ended up in the ICU in Flagstaff. And he was 4 pounds. And and I was 40. So I'm just thinking, it's my fault. Should have had a baby at 40, on and on, you know how we do. He's now 6'1", and could easily take me to the floor, even though I used to be able to beat him up, even though I didn't really do that. He would come in and say, "Try and wrestle me to the floor, Mom." And then, I'd take his legs out and get him to the floor, and he was always mad about that. I've had a lot of experiences in sobriety. We went through bankruptcy. I guess I was about 10 or 12 years sober when we did that, maybe a few more. We lost everything. And the idea that, first of all, you're not supposed to lose everything once you're sober, right? That happens before you get here, and it's not something you're supposed to have to walk through once you're here, because you're supposed to do it right. And so we walked through sobriety. We walked through bankruptcy, and when we moved, Mark really struggled. I got a job right away. I used to be a dental assistant, and so I just applied and got hired. And but Mark had a hard time getting a job, and almost every day he would tell me that he wanted to kill himself. And I really worked hard on trying to make sure that was not going to happen, because that was not a part of this plan. And I kept really quiet about it. I didn't talk to my sponsor about it. And one day, we were doing this book study. There were 4 of us women, and and then I had to go get a regular job. Like, I had worked for Mark for all this time. Like, that's a posh job. I had to go work for a real person. They make you show up on time. They make you do stuff. It was such a drag. And my sponsor really helped me to focus on how to stay grateful, how to be. I had a job, thank God. Anyway, we went to this book study, and I just couldn't. I was just really struggling, and I told her that Mark wanted to kill himself. And she just immediately said, "You need to go home and tell him that he needs to get connected to the men in the program, that you cannot save him." And I really wanted to save him. I just didn't want him. I just would come home in fear every day that I would find him. And so I wanted to save him from that. But I couldn't. I knew I couldn't save him from whatever was happening. And he got connected to the guy. And when I came home, I was petrified. Like, well, if I tell him that I'm not going to listen anymore, then he's going to kill himself, and then I'll be responsible for that. But that's not what happened, obviously. He got help from the guys in AA, and I got help from the women in AA, and life kept going. And he got a job working $10 an hour, and which is just like, he was a contractor. He really struggled with that. And then God had this plan for us. We just kept trying to ask for direction. My sponsor taught me that when I go to leave the house in the morning, that when my hand touches the doorknob, I ask God to direct my thinking. And I did that every day. I still do that. And so he got a job working for a treatment center, driving a van. And he came home one day, and they made him a therapist after a while, classic for treatment. And he came home one day and he said, I think we should open a halfway house. And I just looked at him like, have you lost your mind? No, we know nothing about a halfway. We know nothing about this. How are we going to even, no. And Mark's always coming home with ideas. That's sort of the, and I try really hard not to freak out. Usually he wants a new truck, but this time he wanted a halfway house. And what he said is that he's working at the treatment center, and he sees that the people leave after 30 days and they get drunk or high. There's no place for them to be safe and to learn about AA, to be able to have support. And so I said, okay, well, you find out. We had no money. I said, oh, you find out about it, and then, let's talk about it. Okay, well, so that was just like saying yes. And it didn't take long, and he got a loan from a friend. We got a loan from a friend, and we opened a halfway house. And we treated him like family, and we taught him about how to do stuff. They didn't know how to do anything. They didn't have a bank account, they just started drinking and using young, And we'd have barbecues, and we had community. And then before very long after that, he got connected with a guy in the community who had a treatment center but no clients. And we had 35 clients. And so we got together and we started a treatment center. And for me, it was one of the best things that's happened to me, because I got the chance to help people. I got the chance to give back. I got the chance to teach people about AA, which somebody told Mark, AA and treatment are different, and that's true. But the part that I got to do was teach them about AA. And then we also got to help, I think we had 6 women that came in. We had a men's program, and then one day a guy showed up with his girlfriend, and he wasn't coming in without his girlfriend, so we started a women's program. And so then we had women, and then before long we had pregnant women that showed up at the door, heroin addicts that had nowhere to go, and so we took them. And over the time that we ran the treatment center, 30% of our clients were scholarshiped, because people that don't have money need help too. And it was a really awesome experience. So I think we had 6 babies over that 6 years. I mean, I say we because there are children. We're the grandparents. And those moms, those babies, I see them on Facebook and I see them on Instagram, and they're like in 1st grade, some of them. They're going to kindergarten. Their parents are married and have a life. They own homes. It's just like totally awesome. And I get to be a part of that as long as I stay God-directed. And what happened was that there came a time when we lost our purpose. And as treatment is, lots of treatment centers make a lot of money. And what happened for us is that we got big and we got distracted. And we lost our purpose. And we weren't God-driven anymore. And so God had us do something else. And it took me probably a year to get over it, because that was really hard. Not having an understanding that my primary purpose has to be sobriety, and my primary purpose has to be helping other alcoholics. And then the rest of my life fills in. I don't have a life without having a primary purpose of sobriety. And so, I mean, I still have an amazing life, and I'm grateful to be out of treatment, because I get to do other things like spend time with my kids. And I have a 17-year-old and a 25-year-old, and we have some vacation rentals that we run, which is a lot of fun. And I get to go to AA, and I get to be a part of the miracle that saved my life. And I think one of the things, I don't know if anyone has children or 17-year-olds, but they really don't like their parents a whole lot, even if you're sober. And I mean, he likes me. He doesn't say, I hate you or anything like that. But he doesn't talk to me a whole lot. And, if I come in and say, how's it going? He's like, good. Can you shut the door on your way out? And so the other day, and I have a sponsor that reminds me that that's part of this. I wouldn't be a good mom if I didn't work a program. I would not be a good mom if I didn't have a sponsor. And I get the chance to be a good mom, which is something that I didn't get. So the other day, was about a month ago, he comes in my room, I'm putting on my shoes, and I got a long list of stuff that I'm planning on doing that day, and he's doing school from home and all that stuff that's happening. And he comes in and he just throws himself, he's 6'1", and he throws himself on the bed, and he's laying there, and I'm thinking he wants money or food or a ride. But he has a car, so he, But I said, well, what's happening? And then he just starts talking. And probably about a month before that, I went in and I made an amends to him for all the times that I wasn't there when we were running treatment, for all the times that he got up in the night and I was out dealing with some crazy nut on the roof, or somebody who'd gotten high. I made amends for working too much. And I explained why I felt I owed the amends, and he's 17, so he's kind of uncomfortable, just uncomfortable that I was talking to him, I suspect, but also, you're talking about something besides food or money. But I really needed to do it. I really needed to make the amends. And he just looked at me and he said, Mom, I never realized that we didn't have a lot of money, and I never realized really that you weren't around. When I needed you, you were here. And my perception was that when he needed me, I was nowhere. I was at work. I was dealing with people from treatment. And so that it was short and, simple. And so then a month later, or 2 months later, I guess it was, he came and flopped himself on the bed. And he just started talking to me and about AA. And he said, and about himself. And he goes, oh yeah, well I have this girlfriend in Australia. I'm like, okay. Tell me about that. The whole time that I've been a mom in this program, my kids haven't seen me drink. They were born into sobriety. I don't yell, and I learned how to do that here. I don't freak out. Secretly on the inside, if I don't hear from the 25-year-old after a few days, I start to think he's been murdered in San Francisco. Then I call my sponsor, or I talk to Mark, But my 17-year-old sat there and talked to me for an hour and a half. I mean, that's just like unbelievable. It's a gift that I may never get again. And I get that gift because I show up in here, because I ask for help, because I am of service, because I call my sponsor. When I really want to say he's ignoring me, or he has this sharp tone, or he's being an ass, I don't tell him that. I call my sponsor. Or I go outside and I water the plants, or I do something else. I really have learned how not to react. And it's the same in marriage. There's no way that I would be married for 25 years to the same person, never cheated, never separated, never ran away. There's no way I could do that without this program. There's no way. And that doesn't mean that we have had every day was full of bliss. It means that when shit hit the fan, we know what to do. We have tools. We have people that we can call. We have steps that we can work. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't in his business or telling him what to do. And it doesn't mean that he didn't do the same. But it means that we know how to separate and start again. We know how to ask for help and start again. And I mean, I'm lucky that I got to marry my best friend. I never had a best friend, first of all. But then it works. In this marriage, it works. Because when I'm freaking out and I think that he's being whatever, he says, I'm your friend. And he says, I wouldn't hurt you on purpose. And I'm not going to do anything that's going to make your life unhappy. And I've learned how to trust that. And I've learned how to be the same for him. And there's no way I could do that without AA. There's no way. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to do anything except trade my body for what I needed and scam. That's all I knew how to do when I got here. Really. I mean, I knew how I got a job and I knew how to do all that, but I didn't know how to be a person. I didn't know how to be in a relationship, and I definitely didn't know how to be a mom. And I didn't know how to let people love me. And there's no way I can pay that back. I get the chance to come in here and speak, and I got asked, and I just, Levon over there gave my phone number out, which I try to keep it a secret. And then when they asked me and I hung up the phone, I'm like, shit. I don't want to. I'm petrified of people. So But I got told, show up, because there's somebody in this room that needs to hear whatever it is that I'm trying to say, that needs to hear my experience. And I'm super grateful that I get to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that I get to work the steps, and that it changes my life. That's the beauty. Like, doing the work changes my life. And I've done it a bunch. And every time I get in trouble, I do the work. And then I get to change. And my life has just been one adventure after another, sober. And I'm very grateful. And I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.